You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Locking down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios, this is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Thursday. One of those times where I did not know what day of the week it was, and then I looked over and saw the Rouse's panels and went, well, that means it's Thursday. So we're working towards the weekend here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Appreciate you hanging out with us. Busy show the next couple of hours. Luke Johnson in 15 minutes from Indianapolis. He's covering the NFL Combine from the Saints' perspective. I'll get Luke's thoughts on kind of what the Saints may be up to up in Indy. Got some interesting sound from the national folks up at ESPN that we want to play regarding LSU football at 1:30. Get you caught up on SEC basketball. Supposed to have Joe Healy on Thursdays. Just heard from Joe. Not going to be able to get free today. So I'm going to talk a little SEC baseball because I've got a lot of notes that I want to discuss, and we're getting closer to conference play. We got two more non-conference weekends, and feel like we haven't done a lot of diving into the Southeastern Conference. I'm not going to get into everybody's 7-hole hitter here a little bit later, but some of the big stories from early on in SEC play we'll get to with in the second hour. Chris Blair at 2:15. LSU basketball gets a nice win back on Tuesday, and they'll travel this weekend to Nashville, so we'll talk to Chris about that a little bit. JD Picell from On3 Sports, chat with him every single week during football season on Wednesdays. He had Brian Kelly on the hard count earlier this week, so we'll talk with him coming up at 2:30. So lots and lots to get to here on this Thursday show presented by Rouse's. I do want to start with LSU's win in Houston on the Diamond at Reckling Park last night. LSU beats Rice 16-4. Kind of an interesting game for a 16-4 blowout. There was some stuff I absolutely loved. There was some stuff I absolutely hated. But in the end, very much good that you go on the road and win 16-4 over a decent Rice team. They did beat Louisiana Lafayette 2 out of 3, and yeah, it's not Rice in its heyday. It's just not. But it's a road game, an opportunity to go out there and put on the gray uniforms, which I loved, and play as a kind of a tune-up for this weekend in Minute Maid. And LSU, for the most part, played very, very well. The overwhelming lead story out of this game was the start from Cade Anderson. The freshman has dazzled, and I was up front prior to his start last week against Central Arkansas. I never saw Cade Anderson in the fall or the preseason. It was just coincidence. I probably made 9 scrimmages over the 2 practice periods, and I just never saw him pitch. Just a coincidental thing. And so I didn't have a lot of Cade Anderson takes leading up to the season. But I've seen him twice now, and it's good. This is a guy that Jay Johnson has said multiple times, including with Jacob and T-Bob earlier today, that if he doesn't get hurt at St. Paul's, probably signs a professional contract. But that happens sometimes. Cam Johnson had elbow issues. He's here. Alex Bregman broke his finger. He's here. It just, at times, those things happen to seniors in high school, and I hate to say LSU's the beneficiary of it because it's a negative in a young person's life, but it's the result. And LSU's got a heck of a freshman left-handed pitcher. The line's fantastic. 5 innings, 3 hits, the 3 runs, but none of them were earned. He only had 1 walk and struck out 7. The line is very good, but there are some things beyond the line that I really, really liked. First of all, his stuff is just really good. The fastball's mid-90s. He throws a breaking ball for swing and miss strike 3. He throws it to drop it in for strike 1. He's always around the plate and throws a lot of strikes, which I love. And the stuff's really good. So that's kind of where you start. And then there are some circumstantial things that happen over the course of a baseball game. And last night, the biggest piece to that was the inning where LSU's defense really let Cade Anderson down in the 3rd. He gets a ground out back to him for the first out. Then a ground ball single into right field on a 3-2 pitch. Then he hits a batter, and you've got first and second with 1 out. And then they hit a fly ball to right field. The wind's blowing, whatever. Pearson drops it, but he has the presence of mind to pick it up and get the force out at second base. So you've got runners at the corners and 2 outs, and no one has scored yet. Ground ball, right side. Milam ranges and makes the play on the glove and then comes up and throws it short of first base, and Jones can't pick it. I'd like Milam to make a better throw. I'd like Jones to pick it. Both would have been nice plays. Neither one is made, so Rice plates its first run. Then you got a single into left field in the scorer's book, but it was a pop-up, and nobody caught it. Tommy White goes out. You've got Bingham coming in. They don't communicate. The wind's blowing. I hated it. Looked awful, awful communication by 2 veteran college players, but the ball falls down, and a couple runs come in to score. And so at that point, you've gotten a ground ball to the right side, and they threw it away. You've gotten a pop-up to the left side, and they don't make that play. You could unravel if you're Cade Anderson. You're on the road. It's your second start ever. The veteran guys on your team aren't making plays. And he strikes out Garza looking. I thought that was awesome. I thought it showed some poise. I thought it showed some competitiveness. I thought it showed some grit, the whole deal. And then he comes back in the following inning, in the 4th, and strikeout, pop out to center field, and he's off and running. Just really impressive stuff. And so one of the things that we talked about a lot entering this season with LSU baseball was the depth on this pitching staff is impressive. And I don't know who's the Friday starter. I don't know who's the Saturday starter. I don't know who the Sunday starter is. I don't know if they want a midweek starter. I don't know if they want a closer. Who are the guys out of the bullpen they want in long relief? Who are the guys who are coming in to put out a fire? Like, all those questions remain, but you've got a lot of options. And quite clearly, Cade Anderson has announced himself as one of those options wherever you want him. That stuff, that poise from the left side, plays as a starter, plays as a long reliever, plays as a high leverage reliever, plays as a midweek starter. Like, it plays wherever you want. And that goes back to something I said before the season even started that's kind of changed in my thinking about building a baseball team, one for the regular season and then one for the postseason. If they want Cade Anderson to go out there and be the midweek starter and go 5 or 6 innings every single Tuesday, I'm okay with that. If they say, he's gotten so good, we need him in the bullpen in SEC play whenever we do, so we're only going to throw him 35 pitches on Tuesdays, that's fine with me too. If they tell me he's the Sunday starter, I'm fine with it. But I once upon a time thought you really need to have a midweek starter that you can give the ball to, and we saw last year in Omaha that really you just need to have all hands on deck. You need Nate Ackenhausen ready to go against Tennessee. You need Javen Coleman ready to go against Wake Forest. You need Griffin Herring ready to go. Doesn't matter if they've been a midweek starter. If you just need to have a lot of options. LSU did last year, although they weren't very good for most of the year. They showed up in Omaha. And this appears to be an option that I'm very excited about. I'm not here to plant the flag and tell you where Cade Anderson has to fit on this pitching staff. I'm just telling you I like what I see. Wherever he does shake out, I think he's going to help. That's a big, big deal. Obviously, Brady Neal was the biggest offensive star of the night. Couple of towering home runs. He had some highlights last year. You by now remember, because we bring this up all the time, he homered off Chase Burns, some of the best stuff in college baseball. He homered off Hagen Smith, some of the best stuff in college baseball. But he was a 200 hitter. But he didn't become a potential second-round draft choice because he couldn't hit. He can hit. And now he's getting more at-bats under his belt. That was the problem. He couldn't hit last year, largely because he was a freshman who was 17 years old, just turned 18, and then his back got hurt. And then he went off to the summer and his back got hurt. And then he came back in the fall and they had to baby his back. And now he's getting some more at-bats. He's getting a little bit more confidence, and they're not putting him in like the 7 hole. Brady Neal is hitting in the 4, 5, 6 hole a lot. And I think that's because they know how high his ceiling is. He's the total package at catcher. Milazzo's not the total package. It's a quality package, a package I'm glad is on the team. Travinsky's not the total package. Glad he's on the team. Neal's the total package. And you're seeing some of that early on in this season. I thought that was awesome to see. Stephen Milam got a couple more hits, a couple more runs driven in. Just spraying the ball to all fields, good contact. Like that a ton. Big swing by Paxton Kling early in the game. Got runners on base. He lines the ball into left field that the left fielder can't make a play on. I loved that. Loved the fact that he drew a walk as well. He was on twice, scored a couple runs, drove in 4. Excuse me. All that was excellent. But I didn't like the defense. Again, I'd love Milam and Jones to find a way to make that play. I'd love my 2 veterans on the left side of the baseball field, Tommy White and Mac Bingham, making a communication play and fielding that ball. I'd like Pearson to squeeze it in the outfield. I know that the wind was blowing like crazy. Nobody could catch a fly ball. Rice it was a comedy hour out there when they were trying to catch the ball. I understand, but I got an elite baseball program here. I got an elite baseball team. Make some plays defensively. And the base running to get picked off twice on back picks is inexcusable. These plays don't matter when it's 16-4 against Rice. In Game 3 in Knoxville, when you're trying to win the series, they do. I think last year's team had a bigger margin for error, certainly when Skeens is on the mound, and then with the consistency and the star power in that lineup, there's a little more room for error. I don't know that this team has that yet. I'm not willing to give them the benefit of the doubt yet. That stuff's got to be cleaned up. You're going to kick ground balls on the infield. That's going to happen. You're going to strike out with runners on second and third and 2 out. Like, it's going to happen. You don't have to get back-picked at first base. You don't have to fail to communicate on a pop-up between 2 guys who have played 7 years of college baseball. That's this stuff that wouldn't really matter if you're, Dallas Baptist or Missouri. Like, what are you playing for? LSU is trying to be one of the best teams in the country, and I'm going to have a high bar when I analyze what they're doing. I spent 9 minutes of this segment telling you how awesome some of this stuff was, and it was. But I don't like these mental errors. Not communicating, poor base running. Like, that stuff has to be cleaned up. When you play really good teams, which LSU will, I'll allow for the physical mistakes. Absolutely. I expect them. The mental stuff, no. Can't do it. So overall, 88% positive, but I'm going to bring up the negative stuff too. And I didn't love some of that. But 16-4, a heck of a start to the trip over to Houston. Now all eyes focused on Friday night at 7 o'clock. We assume we'll see LeBaron Johnson for Texas. I'll talk about him on tomorrow's show, and we'll see. We won't know when we're on the air what LSU will do over the weekend, but I'll kind of give my thoughts on what they might do coming up on tomorrow's show. Our Thursday shows are brought to you by Rouse's Markets, official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. Luke Johnson covers those New Orleans Saints. We'll chat with Luke from Indianapolis at the NFL Scouting Combine coming up next.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years, redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. Man, a lot of us refinanced a couple years ago, got really good interest rates, and I feel like a lot of people aren't in a hurry to move. But doesn't mean you can't improve your living situation staying right there under the same roof. How about a customized closet that meets your exact specifications? How about a brand new bathroom? You're in that room a lot. Might as well function and look exactly the way you want it. David Duvall and his team can give you that. It can be a full-scale renovation or remodel. Could be something as simple as a tub-to-shower conversion, but you won't know what they can do for you unless you go get that free consultation. Go to the website, onebathandclosets.com. Look at their testimonials, satisfied clients. Look at the pictures of their fantastic work, and get that free consultation so David and his team can show you what they can do for you. That's our friends at One Bath and Closets, onebathandclosets.com.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Value Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram is taking $17,500 off new 23 1500 Bighorn trucks. We're open for business in our beautiful new showroom and taking $17,500 off new Ram 1500 trucks. All new Bayou vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs, even in the case of an after-hours emergency. The light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
It was a humid day, barefoot children play, looking for that summer shade. Time just slips away. Oh, Louisiana, some kind of hold on me. Like cypress stumps, your roots are planted deep inside of me.
Yo, Jake here from my friends over at Community Steel Company located in Gonzales, Louisiana. The local place you can turn to for all of your metal building needs. Notice I said local, not Houston, not Dallas, not Atlanta, but right here in Gonzales. Visit them at their brand new state-of-the-art website at communitysteelco.com or pick up the phone and give them a call today to answer all of your questions on your metal buildings, roofing and sheet metal, and any other steel needs you or your business need at 225-647-2020.
Bayou Ford has new 23 Ford F-150 STX trucks for only $39,995. $39,995 plus 1.9% financing for 72 months. And all new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few.
Moscona inviting you to join us for Thursday's AFR. The festivities underway at the NFL Combine. We'll have the latest, plus we'll recap LSU Rice in baseball and Pels Pacers. Join us for Thursday's AFR 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You are listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Shout out to the folks over at Rouse's. Appreciate them bringing you our Thursday shows. Download that Rouse's app. Do your weekend grocery shopping. Got a brand new location, North Baton Rouge on Florida Boulevard, that is gorgeous. And, of course, we always hang out at Burbank and Lee on Fridays. I was Burbank and Lee earlier this week. Picked up a little salmon, some potatoes, some Brussels sprouts. Having it tonight. Not the most exciting dinner ever.
Sounds good.
I mean, I'd rather eat a double cheeseburger and fries, but
well, yeah,
it is what it is.
You need to be healthy, huh?
You gotta be a little healthier these days. Speaking of healthy, Luke Johnson, he's healthy sometimes. He's in Indianapolis watching the NFL scouting combine. He joins us now. Luke, how are you?
Not healthy, I'll tell you that.
Do you go to St. Elmo's, or is that all the rich owners and stuff?
I pretend like I'm a rich owner for one night at St. Elmo's every year out here. And I am going to beg my bosses at the Advocate to pay me back for that meal. So we'll see if that happens. But it was nice pretending like I was a big fancy person for one night, get a big ribeye.
I certainly suggest that you could afford the shrimp cocktail and the ribeye. I just don't know if it's like booked up because they just take the place over because they're all there. I didn't know if there was availability, but obviously you found your way in.
Well, look, the key is you make the reservation like a month and a half ahead of time. You got to think ahead out here, otherwise you're going to be eating at like 10:30 at night. So I think I made my reservation actually during week 18, because I'm a smart lad.
Yeah, a lot of NFL teams worrying about the playoffs. The Saints were not at that point, so you could make the reservation. I guess that would be the next step here for the Saints to try to make the playoffs. The scouting combine. What are the Saints doing there? Are they ardently looking for players? Is it more of a networking deal? Are we watching 40 times? Are the interviews the most important? Like, what's the objective over the week?
Well, I think for them, it's important to get just like eyes on the prospects and see how they move, how they interact with their peers, how they interact with coaches and executives in these interviews. I think it's all encompassing, and I was just writing a little bit about it, but a lot of teams have stopped sending a bunch of people here. There's like 6 or 7 head coaches who didn't make the trip this year. The Saints sent like their entire coaching staff. They have every possible important person from the front office staff here. Like Mickey Loomis is here. Their cap guy, Kai Harley, is here. Their director of pro personnel is here. Their college scouting director is here. Their whole college scouting staff is here. So, I mean, they've got like, I don't know, probably 15 or 20 people out here. It's important to them. And we'll see if like all that work and all that, that money that they're investing into this event is fruitful for them. But, they try to do their best and to use the time they have allotted out here to actually make good decisions when it comes to draft time.
Is that a significant change from previous years to have the entire brass there?
No, this is just kind of how they've done business. A couple of years back when Sean Payton was here, I mean, it was the same deal. They had everybody here. I mean, they had members of their video staff here. They're like team video staff. Like they send out everybody. So it's, I mean, I think for them as an organization, it's an important event for a lot of reasons. I mean, I don't know how much scouting Kai Harley is doing out here. I know he does some of that. He's trying to take on more of that stuff. But he's out here doing backroom meetings with agents and talking with as many people as they can to try to get this roster built to be competitive in 2024.
I'm leading this question towards J.C. Latham and the tackles that potentially the Saints could target in the first round. But I guess the first things first is there any news on Ryan Ramczyk, and has that kind of clarified at all?
Yeah, we got a chance to talk to Dennis Allen yesterday, and he sounds optimistic, at least for Ryan Ramczyk's prospects going into 2024. I think I feel a lot better about him being a part of this team now, certainly that I did in December and January. I think back then it was more of a coin flip as to whether he'd return or whether he'd retire. And I think I feel after talking to Dennis yesterday and hearing some of the optimism that he was kind of speaking of with that Ramczyk will be back on the team next year. Obviously that stuff can change, and we've seen in recent years players retiring after like a week of training camp. Yeah. I don't think that's going to be the case with Ramczyk. I think he knows how important he is to the team, and he knows that they're going to have to know whether he's invested in on the team. But I think they're feeling pretty good about it.
Does that change the way you feel about that first round pick?
No, I still think, look, even if they're feeling pretty good about his status going into 2024, I don't know if you can really rightfully say that you think he's going to be playing for you for the next 3 years. And I don't think that you can rightfully say that you think Trevor Penning is going to make this big leap and you can go into the season counting on him to be your starting left tackle. I think they need help there. Even if it's somebody who's going to sit on the bench for a year, I still think you need to have a plan there. It's just way too important of a position to just like count on these variables that are kind of unsteady. So I fully expect a tackle to be in the mix at number 14, even if Ramczyk is back, and even if they like the direction that Trevor Penning's headed.
So honestly, you're never going to get an answer on this from anybody on or really off the record, but just two guys talking here. How much do you think Dennis Allen's thinking about 2025, 2026 right now, and how much do you think he feels like I need guys who are going to help me win now because I may not be around? I mean, can he even think like that? He's got to have some of that in his mind.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think that's why, when people have brought up the idea of the Saints taking a quarterback in the first round, I just think that's just never going to happen. He needs to stabilize his job now. He needs to find guys who are going to commit or who are going to contribute to this team now and in a big way. I just brought up the idea of maybe a tackle sitting for a year. That's like in the best case scenario where Ramczyk is healthy and Penning is the guy you thought he would be. where you don't have to play somebody. But I also think that, if you take a tackle in the first round this year, there's a good likelihood that he's playing. And I think that it's the same thing that goes with, I think they're going to take a long look at these edge rushers, because it's a weak spot on the current roster, and they need guys who can come in and play big roles and kind of shore up some of the weak spots. Because if I'm Dennis Allen, I'm not looking at what's this roster going to look like in 25 and 26, because I might not be there. Especially if it goes like it has the last couple of years, they have to get guys who are going to come in and play big roles right away and kind of shore up some of these weaknesses on the roster.
Anything else that DA said when meeting with you all that piqued your interest at all?
Well, I mean, I thought it was interesting when he was talking about Marshawn Lattimore, and he's saying that Marshawn's a really important player on our team, ... right now. So like I think there's still some potential for that to be something we got to keep an eye on in the next couple months. I don't think it's a guarantee that he's back on the team next year. So I mean, I think that's really the most interesting question kind of hanging over the Saints' head right now is what they're going to do with him, because he's been a huge part of what they've done defensively over the last couple of years, but he's been hurt, and he costs a lot of money, and they don't have a lot of assets. Maybe they swing a move there. I don't think it's out of the question.
Won't hold you to this in 6 or 8 weeks, but is there a player or two that you've kind of got your eye on that maybe the Saints could have interest in this week?
At the draft, I think Jared Verse is one that really just stands out. Like, he's just like, it ticks all of the usual Saints suspects list. In the whole draft process, he's big, he's long, he's explosive, he's productive. I really personally like Dallas Turner from Alabama. We'll see kind of whether the Saints adding a little bit more athleticism as a pass rusher, and kind of ignoring some of the height weight thresholds that they've kind of stuck to in the past. But those two are two that really stand out, and I really like J.C. Latham, the tackle from Alabama, and Amarius Mims, the tackle from Georgia. And I wouldn't rule out the possibility of them taking a receiver or somebody like Brock Bowers if they're available there at 14. I don't think that counts as like one of their top needs. Yeah. But they definitely want to add another pass catcher. They only have 3 of them on the roster right now, 3 receivers. So I think that's going to be an area that they look to address. Maybe not in the first round, but I don't think it's completely out of the question.
One more here, Luke. We appreciate your time. The report card from the NFLPA came out yesterday. Anything that caught your eye from a Saints perspective there? We talked about it yesterday with pretty good grades across the board outside of food and maybe where Dennis Allen ranks as far as the league goes.
Yeah. I kind of right in the bottom middle for a lot of the categories, which, kind of tracks just kind of considering where the organization's at. Some of the low grades, I think you can kind of explain away a little bit. The cafeteria thing, they're getting that renovated. The treatment of families thing was interesting. I think some of the Superdome renovations kind of played a part in that and made things kind of tricky for the getting people into and out of the building. But obviously this is stuff that, like, I think the organization, I think many organizations kind of look at this like, oh God, why do you got to make this public? That sort of thing. But I do think that ends up kind of spurring some action. So I'll be curious to kind of see what happens this off season with all that stuff and getting this very public feedback from the players to see if that kind of gets them to do some things.
Enjoy your time in the Midwest, sir. Safe travels home.
Thanks, man. Talk to you next week.
Luke Johnson, Saints beat writer over at The Advocate. He is up at the Combine in Indy. I just kind of figured that maybe St. Elmo's is booked for the week because they just got all these guys in there every single night drinking scotch and talking about multi-million-dollar contracts. But I'm glad to know my guy Luke can sneak in there, get a reservation, grab a ribeye shrimp cocktail, and I'll await anxiously the review of St. Elmo next week when we chat with Luke about all things New Orleans Saints. Dan Orlovsky had something very interesting to say about the NFL draft regarding Jaden Daniels. We'll get to that and that sound coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
I told you all week how excited Alyssa and I are to have the folks at Audio Video Security Solutions out at our home. They do whole home audio, whether that's surround sound. Done that for us. You got some music in the kitchen, surround sound for the living room television. They can install your TVs if that's something you're not comfortable handling, and they can create such an easy system with your smart TVs and the remote that's got everything digital and you can scroll through. I can actually press the app on my phone, and I want to talk to you about the security that they put in at our home security system. The picture is so clear on the app that I've got. I get an alert every time someone walks onto my porch or there's some sort of delivery or my wife comes home. I get an alert every single time. There's nothing more important than the security of your family at your home, and Audio Video Security Solutions can help you with all of that. They can do all the fun stuff, the TV and the audio, but the security as well. Call Mitchell Fisher. This is his cell phone number. He's the owner of the business over at Audio Video Security Solutions, 225-439-7920. You call that number, 439-7920. You get Mitchell, the owner of the company. It's Audio Video Security Solutions. You can check them out at avssla.com.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, hardy plank, and vinyl siding. But our #1 product is always customer satisfaction. Visit us online at reliefwindows.com.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
IU Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram is taking $17,500 off new 23 1500 Bighorn trucks. We're open for business in our beautiful new showroom and taking $17,500 off new Ram 1500 trucks.
On Fridays, OTB, LSU, Texas, in Houston, we break it all down. Plus, the latest from the NFL Combine, who blew the scouts away? Could Jaden Daniels really be the #1 overall pick? Off the bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Shout out to Rouse's, bringing our Thursday shows each and every week. Hour 2 coming up. And we'll have Chris Blair in 45 minutes and JD Picell from On3 Sports at 2:30. He talked to Brian Kelly earlier this week, so we'll visit on some of those talking points with JD. Speaking of LSU football, I know all of us here that pay attention to LSU week over week realized really early, mid-October, that we were watching something special with Jaden Daniels. I think the concern was focused all on the defense. You're not getting stops. You got Florida State going up and down the field. You got Ole Miss going up and down the field. You got Missouri going up and down the field. You're not getting any stops, and that was the biggest concern early, and you obviously dropped two early games there. But it also became evident in the same time that LSU was keeping up, and Jaden Daniels was playing unbelievable football. He was lights out against Mississippi State. He was fantastic against Ole Miss, excellent against Missouri, even though he was hurt, and it just kind of kept rolling. And so that built to a crescendo, and then the Florida game was absolutely outrageous. And at that point, we all realized that we had a potential Heisman winner on our hands. And as I'm preparing for the show daily and thinking about what's to come, I started thinking to myself, I don't know that the entire country quite knows what Jaden Daniels is doing in Baton Rouge. Yes, you can turn on SportsCenter. You can see him bust a 75-yard run against Florida and then bust another 55-yard run and go for 700 yards of offense. And you can see the highlights. But honestly, what might be more impressive than that is how consistent he is on every play. Does not turn the ball over, does not force the ball into coverage when it's not there, hits the deep throws when they're available, gets LSU in front of the change with accurate and decisive short passing, gets first downs with his feet when it's 3rd and 6. He almost never made a mistake. It was incredible to watch, and all of us were watching and realized it. But as I was thinking about that into November, I was going, this is how the calendar kind of works. All the national folks and the NFL scouts are grinding on their season, on the NFL season, during November, December, January. But once that comes to an end and the player personnel department decide what they're doing and they start watching tape for the draft, and the ESPN analysts and the NFL.com analysts and the Pro Football Focus analysts and all those guys start to watch the entirety of the tape on Jaden Daniels, I think they're going to realize it was better than they thought. Because throwing a 7-yard pass on 3rd and 2 doesn't make SportsCenter. You'd have to go back and watch the entire game to catch that. We're watching. We saw it. Taking off and getting 11 yards on 1st and 10 and outrunning the defensive end and the outside linebacker and beating the corner to the sticks. We saw it. They didn't. They're starting to see it now. And Dan Orlovsky, who did some LSU games this year, so certainly was aware of what Jaden Daniels was doing, had this to say on Get Up earlier this week, and I'm not surprised by this at all.
I thought that Caleb Williams was a lock at number 1 because I thought Drake May would be the guy. I was wrong in that. Jaden Daniels should be the guy. If I were the Chicago Bears right now, I would take Jaden Daniels out of LSU. That is not a knock on Caleb Williams. That is a plus in Jaden Daniels. I think, number 1, when you watch all these guys play, the best thrower, the best guy against man coverage, ball placement-wise, is Jaden Daniels. Number 2, when we're talking about explosive play, like guys who have to throw the ball downfield, what does it look like? Jaden Daniels throws the ball best downfield. And then number 3, who's got the best pocket piece? When I say piece, it's P-E-A-C-E. All these guys are athletic. It's no longer like this plus. Every one of these guys has that attribute. The patience and the peace within the pocket, he's the best at. Candidly, I think when it comes to what guy had the best game, none of these guys' games compared to Jaden Daniels against Florida. If you just watch that player versus the University of Florida, you would go, that's the best player in college football, and he's going to be the guy that transfers the best into the NFL. Caleb Williams is fantastic. I think Jaden Daniels is better.
The tape from this year, and keep in mind, I'm calling myself out here because I did not watch every play Caleb Williams made, just like people weren't watching every time Jaden Daniels did anything here when we were. So I'm admitting my bias and my lack of the entirety of the story. But I can sit here and say with full confidence, Jaden Daniels played significantly better than Caleb Williams this year. Now, it's a different sport. I talked about this earlier this week when you get to the top level. Tim Tebow was awesome and productive in college too and couldn't play in the NFL. I understand. It's not the same. And there are some physical attributes, arm strength, size, where Drake May and Caleb Williams may trump Jaden Daniels. But if you're looking at purely operating an offense at the college level, it's not really a discussion in my mind. And it would not surprise me if the Bears or someone went up and got Jaden Daniels. If you asked me to bet $5 today, I would bet Caleb Williams is the first pick. And I think that's a fine pick. I think he's going to be a really, really good player. He did not have quite the supporting cast around him that Jaden Daniels did, although it was very good. But Jaden Daniels was way better than Drake May this year and better than Caleb Williams this year. It is inarguable. The question is there an NFL team out there that believes that he's a better NFL quarterback and they need to go get him? We'll see. Dominic Foxworth, another national analyst for ESPN, was talking about what the Bears need to do, and he brought up another LSU product and kind of what decision-making processes need to happen at the top of the draft.
Much pressure is on this decision for Ryan Poles and how it could make or break his career is an important one. And that means they have to go through this process and consider all the options and who's the best quarterback. I think if we look around the league now at the top quarterbacks in the league, Joe Burrow comes to mind as the only one that I can think of that was a number one overall pick. So while we all go into this draft process and we all are so sure, consensus, this is the guy, you can't pass on this guy, Ryan Poles kind of has to put that out of his mind and not necessarily let the momentum decide what he should do, but make the best decision, because at the end of the day, his job, frankly, as we can distill this down to this one decision, his job and his future as an executive in the NFL could be riding on who he selects or what he decides to do with this number one overall pick.
That's a great point by Foxworth, and not one that I had really considered. I do remember when the Saints were going to be in the market for a quarterback, going back and looking at every starter in the NFL and where they came from. The majority of them are first-round picks, but not necessarily first overall picks. Kyler is a first overall pick. He's not a great player. Baker Mayfield was a first overall pick. He's not a great player. I mean, Mahomes, not a first overall pick. Josh Allen, not a first overall pick. Lamar Jackson, not a first overall pick. Josh Allen, not a first overall pick. Jalen Hurts, not a first overall pick. I mean, the list goes on and on and on.
Jared Goff was decent. He's made a couple of Pro Bowls.
Yeah, he has.
The last really good one was Andrew Luck in 2012, I think.
Yeah, and Burrow, which he mentioned. So it's interesting, and certainly not a black mark against Jaden Daniels if he's not the first pick in the draft. I think ultimately there's a lot of pieces that go into what makes or breaks a quarterback. They're the most important piece in their work ethic and talent and ability to adapt to the game, but you've also got organization, supporting cast, coaching, and all that kind of goes into it. But it's interesting that the first pick, not always a slam dunk. And, I think there's a lot of people with a lot of confidence in Caleb Williams, a lot of people with a lot of confidence in Jaden Daniels, and I think there's probably a lot of people with a lot of confidence in Drake May as well, but don't have to be the number one guy. I just think, and I'm with Orlowski, if you watch that tape, yeah, Caleb Williams makes more sidearm throws, and he's got a bigger arm than Jaden Daniels. But if you want to talk about who was better last year, spread the field, get the snap out of the shotgun, read the defense, decisively make the throw accurately, there was one guy that was better than everybody else at it, and he's got the hardware, he's got the trophy. Now, Caleb Williams got it the year before. I got it. But I think there's a real decision to be made, and I've got a couple of buddies with long shot picks on Jaden Daniels to be the first pick in the draft. I don't think that discussion is over, because I don't think Dan Orlovsky is completely out on an island with this thought. Watch the tape. I think Jaden's got a chance. Again, I'm betting that $5 on Caleb Williams. I think there's a chance. And if he goes to Chicago, I think that would be very cool, because I listened to a little bit of ESPN Chicago for the Cubs, and I could listen to a little bit more for Jaden Daniels. Not that you should do that. You can lock us in. But I I enjoy keeping track of Joe Burrow. I enjoy keeping track of Alex Bregman, and Jaden Daniels would be easier for me to keep track of if he's in a city where I've already got a little bit of traction. So we'll see. NFL draft coming up here in a matter of weeks. NFL Combine this week. We'll come back and close out hour number 1. Where's LSU going to finish in the SEC in basketball? I think we've got enough information to make an educated guess on that. I'll do it next.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Hey, boat owners, listen up. Go see Front to Back Boat Service at the Lamar Dixon Boat Show March 15th through 17th and take advantage of some incredible Expo exclusive deals that they're going to have. The 23 product is still at the 23 pricing. So if you want forward-facing sonar, you want a custom stereo system, act now. It's starting to get busy. Get your boat ready for the summer with Front to Back Boat Service. Go see them at Lamar Dixon March 15th through 17th.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Elevate brand visibility, ignite customer engagement with the power of radio and digital advertising combined. Guarantee Digital Media brings the two together as a trusted media partner in Louisiana for nearly a century. Claim your free digital audit at guaranteemedia.com.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Yo, Jake here from my friends over at Community Steel Company located in Gonzales, Louisiana. The local place you can turn to for all of your metal building needs. Notice I said local, not Houston, not Dallas, not Atlanta, but right here in Gonzales. Visit them at their brand new state-of-the-art website at communitysteelco.com or pick up the phone and give them a call today to answer all of your questions on your metal buildings, roofing and sheet metal, and any other steel needs you or your business need at 225-647-2020.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
Moscona inviting you to join us for Thursday's AFR. The festivities underway at the NFL Combine. We'll have the latest, plus we'll recap LSU Rice in baseball and Pell's Pacers. Join us for Thursday's AFR 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
if you are looking for college basketball or NBA action this weekend, you can find it here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge on Saturday, 1 o'clock. We've got Illinois, Wisconsin in a Big Ten matchup, and then also in the NBA on Saturday, the Nuggets and Lakers, and on Sunday at 12 p.m., the Sixers and Mavericks. Again, all of that here, of course, at 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You are listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
All right, wrapping up hour number 1 here. I want to let you know where LSU is ticketed to finish here in the Southeastern Conference as far as the basketball team goes, and it's pretty simple at this point. I realize I've got all the notes in front of me, so it's easier for me as I talk to do it, and you're probably driving around and don't have that in front of you, but I can make this fairly simple. LSU cannot finish realistically in the top 6 because there's only 3 games left. LSU's 7-8. The best LSU can do would be 10-8 if they win out. Tennessee's got 12 wins. Bama's got 12 wins. South Carolina has 11 wins. And Auburn, who LSU has lost the tiebreaker to, has 10 wins. LSU can't pass any of them. Florida, who LSU loses the tiebreaker to, has 10 wins. Can't catch them. Kentucky only has 10 wins, so LSU could catch Kentucky. However, they still have Arkansas and Vanderbilt in Rupp. I'm thinking Kentucky probably not going to go 0-3 down the stretch. Chill out, Coach Stack, all right? So I think Kentucky, Florida, Auburn, South Carolina, Alabama, and Tennessee have left LSU in the dust. That is the top 6. So there's one team LSU is trying to catch. Mississippi State is 8-7. LSU is 7-8. We understand that Mississippi State has the tiebreaker over LSU. LSU's remaining schedule, we know, is pretty soft. You've got a road game at Vanderbilt, a road game at Arkansas, and a home game against Missouri. Mississippi State, who is 1 game better than LSU, has a tougher road. At Auburn, very difficult game. At Texas A&M, certainly a losable game. Home against South Carolina, who is 11-4 in league play. Theoretically, the bottom could fall out, and Mississippi State could lose all 3. If they go 1-2, LSU would have to go 3-0 to overtake them. So it's not super likely, but it's possible for LSU to get 7th. Behind LSU, you've got Ole Miss and Texas A&M, both 1 game worse than LSU. LSU holds the tiebreaker over Ole Miss, and I don't know about Texas A&M. However, LSU's schedule is easier than Texas A&M's. As we mentioned, LSU's at Vanderbilt, at Arkansas, Missouri. That's pretty soft. A&M's at Georgia, who's not great, but it's on the road. They're at Ole Miss. Not great, but they're on the road. They've got Mississippi State coming to College Station. Not a very easy game. We saw Mississippi State, although the road record is not great. It's still a functional team. I don't think Texas A&M is going to overtake LSU with that schedule. And I feel like LSU's got a pretty good chance to hold off Ole Miss as well, who's a game behind them. The Rebels lost a tough one against Alabama last night. Ole Miss still goes to Missouri, which is very winnable, at Georgia, and then Texas A&M in Oxford. So as I circle around all of that, LSU doesn't have to worry about Georgia or Arkansas or Vanderbilt or obviously 0-15 Missouri. You're looking at a grouping that LSU sits in with Mississippi State, Ole Miss, and Texas A&M. And LSU is very likely, in my opinion, with what I think is reasonable to expect a 2-1 finish and a 9-9 conference record, to finish 8th in the Southeastern Conference. Now, I know we are not here at LSU, whether it's golf, football, tennis, baseball, football, gymnastics, whatever the case may be, nobody is jumping up and down and finishing 8th in the Southeastern Conference. That's not the way this place works. And I'm not going to jump and down over finishing 8th in the conference. But I will say that's respectable. I'm not fired up to break down NITology. I'm not jumping for joy at the thought of an NIT game on the road at pick one, Oregon. I don't even know how Oregon's doing this year, but whatever the case may be, that's not the goal for any program at LSU. But for this group, as we've watched them progress from Thanksgiving through now what's the 1st of March tomorrow, I think an 8th place finish, doing better than Texas A&M, better than Arkansas, besting Ole Miss, wins over Kentucky and South Carolina. Okay. That'd be okay. Now the question is, will they go out there and do it? Will they finish the week strong? At Vanderbilt, at Arkansas, home Missouri. Can you get that done? If you do, then we'll tip a cap and move on to the SC tournament.
Don't think we have to worry about the Ducks. They're probably going to be in the tournament this year. They're third in the Pac-12 right now, 19-9. So they got a decent chance of making it.
There you go. Figured. I literally just pulled any college out.
Yeah, I figured.
I wasn't going to pick Kansas. I wasn't going to pick North Carolina. I just kind of threw Oregon out. It seems like a team that might be in the tournament, might be in the IT, whatever. They're going to be in the tournament. Good for the Ducks. Appreciate that. Trivia question from a couple of weeks ago. Matthew Knight Arena is where they play. That's all I can give you about Oregon basketball. All right, we're going to pause for SportsCenter, come back with some SEC baseball talk.
Bayou Ford has new 23 Ford F-150 STX trucks for only $39,995. $39,995 plus 1.9% financing for 72 months. And all new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared towards seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
BRAC teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. BRAC, your #1 park system in the nation.
Yo, Jake here from my friends over at Community Steel Company located in Gonzales, Louisiana. The local place you can turn to for all of your metal building needs. Notice I said local, not Houston, not Dallas, not Atlanta, but right here in Gonzales. Visit them at their brand new state-of-the-art website at communitysteelco.com or pick up the phone and give them a call today to answer all of your questions on your metal buildings, roofing and sheet metal, and any other steel needs you or your business need at 225-647-2020.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Doug Brown. Joel Embiid of the 76ers says he hopes to be back on the floor before the end of the regular season. Embiid's been out for a month with a meniscus injury in his left knee. He's averaging 35 points, 11 rebounds, and 6 assists this season. As the Chicago Bears figure out what to do with the number 1 pick in the upcoming draft, ESPN's Dan Orlovsky has changed his mind about what they should do.
I have not thought that Caleb Williams was a lock at number 1 because I thought Drake May would be the guy. I was wrong in that. Jaden Daniels should be the guy. If I were the Chicago Bears right now, I would take Jaden Daniels out of LSU. That is not a knock on Caleb Williams. That is a plus in Jaden Daniels.
Dan Orlovsky on Get Up. Our Adam Schefter reports another Saints player restructures his contract. 8-time Pro Bowl defensive end Cameron Jordan gets a new deal that saves the team more than $9 million against the cap. ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski reports the Hornets will hire Jeff Peterson as the team's new head of basketball operations. He's been the assistant GM of the Nets the last 5 years.
Hey, it's your resident Super Bowl champ, Chris Cannon, coming on Friday. As the workouts get started at the Combine, I'll tell you the one prospect who has a lot riding on his performance. It's Unsportsmanlike, 6 a.m. Eastern, right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I direct your attention to something quite extraordinary?
Now, the Hunt Palmer Show. The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge Studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour number 2, Hunt Palmer Show, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. We're working towards the weekend, a Thursday edition here. These are brought to you by Rouse's Markets. Had a change here with the move. Rouse's Burbank and Lee now going to be my grocery shopping home. As I mentioned in the first hour, I was there earlier this week, and I think I'm going to stop on by there tomorrow. 'Cause it sounds like the wife might have some dinner plans for herself and some friends tomorrow. LSU in Texas will be playing. I might be cooking steak for me. And they got delicious ribeyes in the back in that butcher shop as at the Burbank and Lee location. So that's probably in my near future, thanks to the folks over there at Rouse's. We're supposed to talk to Joe Healy here in this segment, but Joe couldn't make it with us today. We couldn't find a way to link up. He was being pulled in a couple of different directions. So we'll catch up with Joe next week. They do awesome work over there at D1 Baseball, the SEC Extra Package. If you're looking for SEC best baseball coverage, he and Mark Ethers do such a good job. I listen to Highway to Hoover every single week, and they do an awesome job of keeping up with things in the SEC. It's tough. In football, like everybody plays one day, and then you see all the highlights, you can kind of stay with it. Baseball, you got a bunch of teams playing on Tuesday, a bunch of teams playing on Wednesday. Everybody's playing 3 games in a weekend. You can get lost in the shuffle. It's just hard to keep up with the league as a whole. If you're just a casual fan of one team, they do it for you over there at D1 Baseball. And so I wanted to spend our time today with Joe talking about his thoughts on some of the aces in the Southeastern Conference through 2 weeks. We know, 2 years ago at this point, Blake Money was LSU's ace, and it looked great in the process. And we know what happened that year. Mikhail Hilliard and Ty Floyd ended up kind of taking that mantle. But it's early, and I wanted kind of his thoughts. But I've got some of my own that I wrote down here to kind of get into the conversation. So I'll give you my thoughts on some of the aces. And I'm just going to boil it down to the ones that LSU will see this year at some point. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on a lot of the teams that LSU won't play this year at this point in the schedule. I know most of you to this point in the week have heard about what Hagen Smith did over the weekend. Arkansas played Oklahoma State in Arlington, and Hagen Smith was rebounding from a real bumpy first outing. In his first outing, they were playing James Madison. He hit the first guy, walked the second guy, or give up a single, walk. Either way, the first 2 guys reached, and the third guy hit a 3-run homer. He threw 40-something pitches in the first inning, was lifted from the game. This is a guy that could be the first pitcher drafted in the big league draft this year. This is a guy who was excellent last year in whatever role they asked him to pitch in. He throws nearly 100 miles an hour, left-handed. He's fantastic. And 2 weeks ago in the opener, he got through 1 inning. He was a little better than that in week number 2. Hagen Smith, through 5 innings against Oklahoma State, had 15 strikeouts. Beck, I know you were not a math major in your time in college, but how's 15 strikeouts in 5 innings for you?
That seems like a lot.
It's a lot. It's the max, unless your catcher drops one.
Yeah, that's true.
15
5 times
strikeouts
3, right?
in 5 innings. He finished his 6 innings of work with 17 strikeouts. Oklahoma State made 1 out in play against Hagen Smith, and he kept his pitch count relatively low, because even with the massive strikeout numbers. That is one of the most impressive performances I have ever seen from an SEC pitcher. I realize it's early, but that's remarkable, and he is that good. He's going to be a handful for anybody who sees him over the weekend. And Arkansas's got 2 really good pitchers behind him in Brady Tigert, who has been there for a couple of years, and Mason Molina, who came over from Texas Tech. That's as good a weekend rotation as there is in college baseball up there at Arkansas. They've got to find a way to get things done on offense. But Florida's ace this year, obviously, you know that they lost Hurston Waldrop after last year, who was excellent against LSU in the College World Series, was great against LSU for Southern Miss 2 years ago. He's fantastic. He comes out of the equation as probably their top guy, even though he didn't go on Fridays last year. So what's next for Florida? Cade Fisher is next for Florida. He was a starter sometimes for him, a bullpen guy sometimes for him. LSU saw him in the College World Series last year in the championship series. He pitched in the last game, incidentally, and LSU knocked him around a little bit, as they did everybody that Florida trotted out. But he was hit hard in their opener against St. John's. He only lasted 2 innings, gave up 5 earned runs, 6 runs total, had a couple walks and 4 strikeouts, gave up 3 doubles and hit a guy in those 2 innings against St. John's. Not a very good start for him. Came out against Columbia last week and was much better. 5 innings, 10 strikeouts, 2 earned runs, and 5 hits against Columbia is not sparkling, but the 10 strikeouts demonstrates how good he can be. And Columbia is generally knocking on the door of a tournament. That's Penn and Columbia are the best 2 Ivy League teams for sure. And so a better outing for Cade Fisher in that one. A.J. Russell is kind of taking the ball for Tennessee. At this point, everybody kind of thought it would be Drew Beam, who has backed up Dollander and Burns the last couple of years. He beat LSU last year in Alex Box Stadium. He was impressive against Texas Tech in their opening weekend, 4 1/3 innings, 10 strikeouts and 1 walk against the Red Raiders. Last week against Albany, they held him to 3 innings there, but he shut him out, struck out 4. I'm curious to see what A.J. Russell is. He looks like kind of the next guy there. Beam's been pretty comfortable on Sundays for Tennessee to this point, so I think that's probably where you'll see him. The bumpiest go thus far for an SEC ace has been J.T. Quinn. If you weren't paying attention to this, Ole Miss lost its last 2 games at Hawaii to split that 4-game series, flew back to Oxford, and immediately dropped their first 2 home games to lose 4 games in a row. They responded and crushed High Point the last 2 games of that series, but Quinn's been a concern. Against Hawaii, 3 1/3 innings, 3 runs, 3 walks, 3 hits, and just wasn't great in that game. Then he comes back at home against High Point and was worse. 3 1/3 innings, 5 hits, 5 runs. 3 of those were earned, 5 walks in 3 1/3 innings, and 6 strikeouts. So 12 strikeouts in 6 2/3 is very good. 8 walks is not. 6 runs, 8 runs, 6 earned runs is not. Ole Miss looks to have a bit of a starting pitching problem. It's early. Guys can emerge. In their national championship run, Hunter Elliott was an afterthought at this time. Dylan DeLucia was an afterthought at this time. Those guys became stalwarts and led them to the national championship. It's early. You can find guys. But just kind of a snapshot at what's going on. I think Arkansas feels great about their pitching. I think Florida feels great about their pitching. Caglione threw a ton of strikes last week, and he's not striking out a lot as a hitter. He's been very, very good. A.J. Russell's been good for Tennessee. And J.T. Quinn over Ole Miss has not been very good. And I don't like what I've seen from Ole Miss through 2 weeks. And you look at the magical run that they were on 2 years ago to win that national championship, and you are going to hear me say this until they prove it wrong this season. If that doesn't happen, you're going to keep hearing it probably weekly from me. Ole Miss is very much looking like a program that lucked into 3 weeks of great baseball. Their national championship season, they were 14-16 in SEC play. Last year, they won 6 games in league play. This team doesn't look to have frontline pitching and is replacing a lot on offense and did not hit very much in Hawaii. They can turn this thing on and win the league, for all I know. But right now, I'm sticking to my guns. This Ole Miss team and this program is looking like they're headed for a third straight subpar regular season. I'm well aware that includes a national championship. But at some point, you have to look at those 3 weeks as the outlier and realize that program's not in very good shape. And I heard an interesting comment from Neil McCready and Chase Parham, who cover Ole Miss for Rebel Grove, and I was listening to their podcast last week. If Ole Miss is going to put all of their NIL money in the football bucket and go get all these transfers, that's great. I don't think Chris Beard's going to like it, and I don't think Mike Bianco will survive it. It's about choices. There are only so many dollars in the coffers of the Ole Miss collective, the Grove collective. If you're going to shove all those at the transfer portal and tell Chris Beard, yeah, just go figure something out, he'll leave, and go tell Mike Bianco, yeah, just go figure something out, he'll get fired. That's what I think is potentially the situation at Ole Miss. I'll say for the third time in this segment, it's really early to pass an entire judgment on this Ole Miss baseball season. I'm just saying it's trending that way. And until they prove me wrong, that's probably the song I'll sing. Just to look at some Southeastern Conference baseball. Joe Healy can certainly do it in more depth than I can, and we'll catch back up with him next Thursday as LSU gets ready for Xavier. And SEC play is right around the corner. Incidentally, some SEC teams with some quality opponents this weekend. You've got Texas A&M's got a couple games with Arizona State and one with Southern Cal. Alabama's got Arizona, Indiana, who's ranked, and Dallas Baptist. Vanderbilt is in Houston with LSU. Obviously, the Tigers are in Houston as well. So a better weekend as far as of competition for the Southeastern Conference, and that's usually the case. Opening weekend, you kind of play some patsy at home. Maybe that happens again in the second weekend. You go play a tournament in weekend 3 to kind of see where you are. You work the kinks out in week number 4, which is what LSU will try to do against Xavier, and then it's 10 weeks of the grind of Southeastern Conference baseball, and we're pretty close to it. Although next week at this time, I'll probably be telling you it feels like it's miles and miles away because the newness of the season's kind of worn off a little bit, and you still got 2 weeks to get there. But we'll get there eventually. That's for sure. Let's look around the Southeastern Conference at baseball. Chris Blair, voice of the Tigers, was on the call for LSU and in Georgia back on Tuesday, and he'll be in Nashville for LSU and Vanderbilt coming up this week. We'll talk some basketball and a little bit of baseball as well with the voice of the Tigers coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
ESPN Bet now live in Louisiana as the official sportsbook of ESPN. ESPN Bet's the only place to find daily exclusives and offers with your favorite ESPN personalities. They do a great job with odds boosts with Mike Greenberg, Stephen A. Smith, and the like. You can find some really quality angles on ESPN Bet. You can sign up today. New users get $100 in bonus bets for making any sportsbook bet. You can find all your favorite markets, bets, in-game wagering, cross-sport parlays, teasers, all the props that you can handle. Just download that app, put a little money in, make a bet, $100 comes your way. That's ESPN Bet. You can download today. What a play. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700 in partnership with the Bears Lake Charles. Terms and conditions apply. See app for details.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving.
On Fridays, OTB, LSU, Texas, in Houston, we break it all down. Plus, the latest from the NFL Combine, who blew the scouts away. Could Jaden Daniels really be the number 1 overall pick? Off the bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Tigers got a win in the PMAC back on Tuesday night over Georgia. Headed to Nashville, take on the Vanderbilt Commodores coming up on Saturday. Chris Blair, voice of the Tigers, was there on Tuesday. He'll be there on Saturday, and he joins us now as he does every Thursday on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Chris, how are you?
I'm great, Hunt. You get moved in, you get settled, you get all the boxes put away.
The boxes will be put away, I think, by the football opener. That based on the progress we're making at the moment, but that's to be determined. It's an adjustment for the Palmers. There's one room that's just all boxes. We don't know where to put something. It's just in that room. So we'll figure it out. But it is what it is. I appreciate you asking. I did get a chance to check out the game on Tuesday. A little bit of a script flip there for the Tigers, who built a lead and then it got away, but they found a way to make plays late.
Yeah, we actually joked about it going into halftime that, we didn't know how true it would be, but we thought, well, I wonder how LSU is going to play with a lead. And as it turned out, it still ended up being a game that went down to the wire. And the biggest concern, I think, going into halftime, Hunt, against Georgia was, if you don't have 11 turnovers, you're shooting 7 of 10 from 3, you're over 50% from the field. I mean, that score could have been with, 7, 8 more possessions. That could have been easily 20 plus or more a lead for the Tigers, which was a little more similar to the Arkansas game, which was way back when. But, you still got to tip your cap to finding a way to win. They pulled it out with an offensive play against Kentucky on Wednesday, and this time around it was a defensive play with time running out and Jalen Reed with the block shot. But, it's much better to be on the other side of those 1-point games when you win. Of course, they lost to Georgia by 2 in Athens. But, I just think, I know it sounds like a broken record, but I've said it to you now for 2 or 3 weeks, certainly over this last 6-7 game span. I just really feel like LSU has a certain blueprint that leads to victory, and they really don't have much variance. And, and I thought it showed up against Mississippi State because LSU is a team that has to play physical. I think they out-physicaled South Carolina. I think they were more physical and had more hustle than Kentucky. And ultimately, in the final 4 minutes on Tuesday, they out-hustled Georgia. But that's what Mississippi State does. And now all of a sudden, Herbert's found a way to score 20-plus, 30 points a game. Makes Mississippi State a little tougher. But, a 3-game homestand, you win 2 out of 3. You got 3 games remaining. I don't know what the Vegas folks will say, but, to me, they're all winnable games. I don't know who will be favored. That's one of the few vices I don't have. But, still, all in all, winnable games. And, when you look at the SEC standings, which I'm sure you have and you've talked about, there's some teams that have some pretty tough games remaining for the final three. And all of a sudden, that middle of the SEC could look a lot different when we head to Music City.
No question about that. What was your confidence level in Will Baker when he stepped to the line down one late?
Well, normally in the early part of the season, John and I bragged on how good a free throw shooter he is for a 7-footer. Neither one of us uttered a word when he got to the line at the end of the game. We weren't going to have that hang on us, so we just let him go up there and shoot the free throws. But, having 10 points in the first 6 minutes, I think, of the ball game, and then just went away for a while. But if you're only going to get two, make it those two. So kudos to him for making them from the line.
I'm certain you talked to Matt McMahon after the game and then last night on the coach's show. What does he have to say about the turnovers?
Yeah, some of it was uncharacteristic, against Mississippi State. You had such a great game, an incredible stat line for Trey Hannibal, who, let's give the guy a hand. He's playing 38, 39 minutes a game, and that's by necessity. And again, he's part of that blueprint that if he's not out there going for loose balls and, diving into scorers tables, LSU probably doesn't win 2 out of the 3 the last couple of games. But there were some uncharacteristic things where he just threw the ball away. Did it a couple of times against Mississippi State, and then one time in the first half or in the second half against Georgia. But kudos to Trey, because right now he is the bona fide point guard for this team. And there's, you got Mike Williams who can come in and handle the point, but he does much better playing off the ball. And Matt McMahon's playing with who he's got. And for Trey to have kind of a disappointing game against Mississippi State where he had more turnovers than assists, he got back to it against Georgia with, again, much better job of distributing the basketball. But, they've got to cut those turnovers down. And the thing that's been different is now, because LSU is shooting the ball much better over the last 4, 5, 6, 7 games, it's come down to, missed possessions, missed opportunities to put shots on goal. Whereas early in the conference race, those high turnovers resulting in live turnovers, which turned into points. A team like Arkansas can exploit you. Vanderbilt's a team that can do that with Mannion, who's a very good driver. So, yeah, it's a big concern. And, in that first meeting against Vanderbilt, it was one of the best games. They only had 8 turnovers. They were very efficient against Vandy. And Vandy's a team that's really going to strive to be good offensively. Coach Stackhouse is going to design he's cutting edge with what he's doing offensively. But it's not a team that typically puts a lot of pressure on you. But you go into, Nashville on Saturday, which, by the way, is the 4th toughest place for LSU in the history of their time in the SEC. It's Rupp Arena, it's Coleman Coliseum, it's Bud Walton, and then it's beautiful Memorial Gymnasium. Those are the top 4 toughest places by record that LSU plays in the SEC.
I believe that. I haven't watched it for 30 years for sure. A couple things you mentioned there. People, I think, roll their eyes when I say that Jerry Stackhouse's offense is really good. It has been since he's been there. They haven't had any good players, and that's why I don't think he's going to be employed there very much longer. But they do run great stuff. It's just a matter of the Jimmies and Joes that he has not had. But you've mentioned Memorial Gym. How different is that place? I've never been in it, and I think a lot of our listeners have never been in it. You certainly have. What is it like in there?
They made it a little bit better not too long ago because the benches are underneath the basket, which I think a lot of people do recognize when they see Vandy on TV. For a long time, the coach's box was also under the basket. So, you know how coaches are today. They're coaching every pass, every dribble. You're having to do that on the other end of the floor for a half. Now they've allowed them to come up the sideline a little bit. That makes it a little bit different. But the dimensions of the place are strange. There's a big gap between the playing floor and the first section of seats all the way around the floor. And it takes a little getting used to. And it's going to be interesting for me to watch Jordan Wright because I thought Jordan did an excellent job in that first meeting, Hunt, of not trying to force things against his old team. I thought it was one of his better games where he let the offense come to him. I hope he can do the same thing. It may be a little different going back to a place where he played so many times in his 4 years there, but hopefully he'll have the same type of approach to the game that he did in the first meeting because goodness knows, as down as many numbers as LSU is, you've got to count on 15, 16, 17 points for Jordan Wright. Without that, you're not winning these last couple of games.
Yeah, Jordan was next on my list here, obviously going back there. Pretty much best of both worlds for him, a degree from Vanderbilt and then representing your home state school for your final year, but he'll get to go back up to Nashville. I'd imagine a kind of an emotional thing for him. I remember Jerry Stackhouse saying that Jordan Wright was the first signee he ever had at Vanderbilt, so got to be an interesting Saturday for the Baton Rouge native.
Yeah, without question, because I think he's very proud, as his family is and should be, for his degree at Vanderbilt, one of the premier institutions, and certainly in the country, if not in the world. And then to be able to, have the career he had, over 1,000 points as a Commodore. He was an academic All-American for the Vanderbilt team, and now coming back and having such a great fifth year playing for his home state. Again, I know there'll be a lot of emotion. I'm sure that he's probably thinking of Coach Stackhouse too, with all the news swirling around whether or not he's going to stay or not stay at the end of this season. But this is an important game. I said it on Tuesday. You don't like to use the phrase "must win," but if you're hoping for any decent or good opportunity, or any opportunity for that matter, for any postseason play, I mean, that destiny right now is held in LSU's hands. And who knows? Like I said, if there's some teams that take some tough losses down the stretch of the regular season, you may find yourself with a pretty decent bid in Music City. And then, of course, as we all know, that's why they call it March Madness. Anything can happen.
For sure. You pulled a double dip back on Saturday. The first part of that was Luke Holman on the mound. He was sensational. What'd you see from the big right-hander last weekend?
Yeah, I mean, he is impressive. I was asked earlier today who I thought would, be on the bump tomorrow in the big game against Texas. And, I'm sure we'll find out. And when that comes out, there'll be lots of, opinions on it. But one thing I know for sure about Coach Johnson, being around him enough, it's not about playing Texas on Friday. I mean, it's all about the long play for the season. So, it'll be interesting to see. But I think when you look down the road and you start asking yourself, who do you want starting in an always brutal SEC weekend, week after week after week? I mean, I think, Luke kind of stands out by himself based on what he's done, from sheer number of innings, strikeouts to walks. Because if there's been one thing that's a little concerning for me from both the other starting pitchers so far and even out of the bullpen is, I've brung up a lot of strikeouts, which is great. But there's been, I think, a little too higher level of free passes.
Yep.
And Holman's kind of the one guy that, at least in the starting role, hasn't done that. So, I think he is as advertised. And, the good news is, Hunt, and you would certainly agree with me, that, this year, similar to last year, but certainly a lot better than previous years. I mean, there's plenty of candidates for, a 3-game weekend, and it'll be interesting to see what happens. But regardless of who goes against Texas, I know everybody wants to win that game. Jay Johnson wants to win that game. But whoever gets the call, there's a reason for it. It's not just because they're playing maybe the biggest team they played all season, because he's big about keeping guys in schedule. And even though it seems like SEC play is a long way from now, it's not. And once they get in a groove, I think he likes to keep them there.
Enjoy Nashville. We'll talk next week. Thanks, Chris.
You got it, huh? Thank you.
He's the voice of the Tigers, Chris Blair. You can hear him on the LSU Sports Radio Network. LSU and Vanderbilt coming up Saturday afternoon from Music City in Memorial Gymnasium. A little football when we come back. JD Picell from On3 Sports, you know him from our show every single Wednesday during football season. He doesn't stop with football season, and Brian Kelly joined the Hard Count with JD earlier this week. We'll talk to JD about that coming up next.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
The importance of doing this fortified program and offering it to people down here is, number one, the only real chance you're going to get to do this is when you put on a new roof or build new. And through companies like HUDCO, who's kind of leading the way in this thing, it's going to offer the customers a huge advantage in the insurance market and the price of their insurance.
We're not looking to make a fortune off fortifying. We're trying to give you a better product than our competitor at the moment. I'm trying to do something that he can. I'm trying to give you something better. So a lot of these insurance shops, you're getting a re-roof, you're only paying your deductible. Let's sit down and talk about the fortified, and let's see what it does to your insurance premium. You're getting a steal.
Yeah.
You're getting a brand new roof and a fortified certificate for your deductible, essentially. I think we're rocking and rolling.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Yo, Jake here from my friends over at Community Steel Company located in Gonzales, Louisiana. The local place you can turn to for all of your metal building needs. Notice I said local, not Houston, not Dallas, not Atlanta, but right here in Gonzales. Visit them at their brand new state-of-the-art website at communitysteelco.com or pick up the phone and give them a call today to answer all of your questions on your metal buildings, roofing and sheet metal, and any other steel needs you or your business need at 225-647-2020.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Available in all states or situations.
This year, Dell Technologies wants to help you do amazing things with their best tech. For a limited time only, save on select next-gen PCs like the XPS 13 Plus, powered by Intel Core processors, and more. Plus, curate your dream setup with great deals on select monitors, mice, and more must-have electronics and accessories. When you shop online at Dell.com/deals, you'll have access to leading-edge technology to match your forward-thinking spirit and free shipping on everything. Again, that's Dell.com/deals.
Moscona inviting you to join us for Thursday's AFR. The festivities underway at the NFL Combine. We'll have the latest, plus we'll recap LSU Rice in baseball and Pell's Pacers. Join us for Thursday's AFR 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Discover the largest showcase of outdoor gear in Louisiana, featuring everything from fishing and hunting equipment to ATVs, boats, and more at the Louisiana Outdoor Expo, March 15th through the 17th at the Lamar Dixon Expo Center. Register for your chance to win tickets today at 1045ESPN.com.
You are listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
We're one day away from March. March Madness, college basketball, the greatest time in that sport. Got 2 weeks until SEC baseball cranks up. LSU with a big one tomorrow against Texas. But you're always looking for that football fix. And over at the Hard Count, part of the On3 network, JD Picell, it's always football season. And that's why we bring him on today. Got a few things to talk about. JD, how are you?
Man, I'm doing well. Doing better now, man. It feels like it's a fall Wednesday. I can almost taste the crisp air. We got probably like LSU playing someone awesome this weekend. But regardless, man, fired to be on with you.
Well, you chatted with the head ball coach here in Baton Rouge, Brian Kelly, on the Hard Count earlier this week. Those that want to check out the full interview, you can do it over at the Hard Count on YouTube, part of the On3 channel there. Your thoughts on where Brian Kelly's program is before we get to some of the things he had to say?
You know, I think overall, I'm really excited about the Garrett Nussmeier era. I think we've seen what he's been able to do in kind of a limited sample size, and I don't see the offense taking a massive step back even with losing Mike Denbrock. Now, the defensive side of the ball, it's not at all what LSU fans have come to expect, and I think the hiring of Blake Baker is important to try and remedy that. And then I also think just the fact that you brought in someone who, from where I'm sitting, like he matches so much what I believe that fan base wants to see from their defense in terms of being aggressive, getting after the quarterback, playing physical, like everything that Missouri defense was last year is what we're used to seeing a Baton Rouge defense look like. So I think it's a really good match, and I'm excited about all the new pieces coming into the fold here for LSU.
Is it realistic for the LSU defense to take a significant step up towards the top part of the SEC? I mean, they were as bad as you could be last year, or you're just looking for a middle-of-the-road defense in the league?
I think to answer that question directly, I think above middle of the road, top tier feels like it would be a little bit more of a stretch just because of, like you said, what last year was. I probably have some concerns about how that secondary is going to look the coming season and just kind of a need to see it to believe it kind of thing. But, Hunt, the thing is, like, if they're even a decent defense last year, is LSU not in the college football playoff, or at least in that Atlanta picture at the end of last year? Like, they were lights out offensively, and obviously you lose some great talent in Neighbors and Thomas and Daniels, but like, I mean, if they just have a better defense last year, they're probably in that 14 conversation.
Harold Perkins has been a big topic this week here in Baton Rouge. The local newspaper did a Q&A with BK and said he's going to move inside. He's going to play inside linebacker. It's something that we heard a little bit about last year. All of a sudden, he was playing kind of your weak outside linebacker, playing some nickel. They've moved him around a lot. What do you think about Harold Perkins playing inside linebacker full-time?
It feels counterintuitive to me, just by nature of his size. My feeling is, unless it's a move where you're like, hey, we want to get Harold at the inside linebacker position because that's what's important for the NFL and they need to see that. Like, if that is the thought process, and I don't know that it is, I'd say like the NFL is going to find spots for Harold Perkins. Like, Harold Perkins is good at too many things, too good of an athlete, too ridiculous rushing the passer. Like, there's a spot for Harold Perkins in the NFL, and whoever drafts him will have a plan for him. Now, how he starts the year, and if they, say he's going to play inside, and then maybe by game 3, we're talking about Harold Perkins being moving around again. I do like the idea of letting him major in one position. To me, it feels a little bit counterintuitive to have him playing inside against, some really, I mean, let's just call a spade, some really physical offensive lines that are going to try and take advantage of that matchup.
So you had BK on earlier this week. For those that missed it, you can catch it online on YouTube, part of the Hard Count, part of the On3 channel. JD was interviewing Brian Kelly. What were you most excited to ask Brian Kelly about?
I think just the first thing we asked him, and the thing that I was most eager to ask him was like, hey, how does this compare to other year 3 spots for you? Like, you've only had, so many jobs throughout the course of your college football head coaching career, but this is kind of that part of the year, Hunt, where coaches try to not make headlines, like coaches tried to say the most non-answer answers of all time. And he was like pretty transparent in the sense where he said, year 3 for me historically, we have a lot of success, and that's saying something given the fact they had a whole lot of success in year 1 and year 2 in Baton Rouge, winning 10 games each year. So it's like, okay, if year 3 is the year where you have success and the last 2 years were just the build-up, like, I'm an LSU fan. I'm fired up. So that was a huge talking point. And if I'm an LSU fan, like I said, I think that would be really, really encouraging to speak so candidly of a team at this point in the year.
You mentioned Garrett Nussmeier. I'm curious your thoughts, and it sounds crazy because Jaden Daniels won the Heisman Trophy. But when you analyze this LSU team, are you more confident in LSU's ability to replace Jaden Daniels with Garrett Nussmeier, or LSU's ability to replace Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas with the 7 guys that they've got? What's a bigger question mark for you there?
I think the production that Jaden Daniels brought on the ground is obviously something that Garrett Nussmeier doesn't bring to the table. I think the question mark for me is, how do you replace what he did running the football and putting teams in a bind that way and commanding more of the safeties to come up and play against him running the football than you had guys getting open downfield. But to be honest, like, I don't have a whole lot of question marks outside of Garrett Nussmeier. Like, and I'm saying it's a question mark around Garrett Nussmeier is maybe even a little bit harsh, just the fact we haven't seen him play a full season as the guy just yet. But I mean, Brian Kelly was saying, hey, what we've seen from Garrett Nussmeier, obviously, like the impressive parts everyone saw in the SEC championship game 2 years ago against Georgia, and then he threw for almost a quarter mile of yards against against Wisconsin, but then he did all those things with pretty limited reps for the most part. Like, we haven't really seen him have a whole off season where the playbook is built for him and the coaches are giving him more attention. And so I think all those things factor into a lot of excitement when it comes to Garrett Nussmeier. Now, for the receiving core, I really think CJ Daniels is a name that maybe a lot of folks aren't as familiar with on a national level. The transfer from Liberty over to LSU, but he had 1,000 yards last year in that offense. I think he's going to have another big year at LSU. I think he's a tremendously well-kept secret for LSU. And so it's hard to say you're going to replace a Brian Thomas and a Malik Neighbors, but even with that being said, I think they still got a lot of weapons to really take advantage of.
Talk some big picture stuff here while I've got you. Saban retiring, I don't know if we've talked since then, but you look at Kalen DeBoer coming in, kind of that exodus. What do you think the immediate future is for Alabama football?
Hey, no censoring of any press conferences. God doesn't swear, right? I mean, that's what I was seeing on Twitter. He's not cursing. So the immediate future is funny because I think there's going to kind of be this Saban-esque roster that's still in Tuscaloosa. Like, obviously the portal did what the portal does, and you lose a lot of high-profile guys, but like everyone on that roster that committed out of high school is a part of a top 2 class. Now, where they were in that top 2 class and it was near the bottom, or if they're in the middle or the top, it doesn't, that's all a whole deeper dive we'd have to do. But the bottom line here is I think the big question for Kalen DeBoer is, can he recruit in the SEC? And that's something that, it's not like we've seen him not do that just yet, but we haven't seen him have the opportunity to do that. And so that's going to be the real telling thing for me, and we won't get a tremendous gauge on that until that kind of Saban personnel sort of filters out. So for me, I'm kind of like, let's give it 2 years and kind of form an opinion, hold it loosely. I mean, the SEC is obviously just becoming more brutal with Texas and OU. The guy's 104-12. And so whether you're doing it at a Pop Warner level or in the SEC, like 104-12 is still really impressive. So he can coach ball without a question. I'm just curious how that talent acquisition side is going to formulate and how they're going to adjust over the course of these next couple of seasons. So I would say he's not Nick Saban, and that's fine, but just kind of buy into him being Kalen DeBoer and take the earmuffs off the kids for the press conferences.
How much Ole Miss Kool-Aid are you allowing yourself to drink?
I'm not going to lie. This is kind of the fun part of the year where we don't really put restrictions on any Kool-Aid. We break it out of the fridge. If there's any left over, pour it in a bottle. Make whatever. If you want to mix it with some orange juice, you want to mix it with the Gatorade, whatever you want to do. Kool-Aid of all flavors is welcome this point of the year. And I mean, hey, that Peach Bowl was fun to watch, man. I think Jackson Dart's a stud, and I mean they got better through the portal. Like it's funny. Like if Lane Kiffin, this is a major if, but we talked about it on our show. If Lane Kiffin wins a national title, how much is everyone else going to rethink utilizing the portal? Like Ole Miss recruits in the 20s, give or take, every single year, and if they win the national title by portaling in their whole roster from their quarterback to their stud defensive linemen, like that's going to kind of break the 4-minute mile barrier we all saw around what the portal was in relation to winning a national title. So I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. I'm proud of it, and I'm curious to see what they look like here in the fall when they actually start playing games.
You're looking for your football fix, JD Picell's got you covered. He's the host of The Hard Count on the On3 YouTube channel. Interviewed Brian Kelly this week. If you want to check it out, invite you to head over to YouTube and do so. JD, thanks for checking in, man. We'll talk soon.
I appreciate you, brother. We'll talk again soon.
You got it. That is JD Picell with us every football season on Wednesdays at 1:15. I think that's right. Wanted him to check in here as he's got some Brian Kelly content. I'm sure a lot of y'all can flood over there and check it out. It's that time of year, a little bit of talking season here as we get ready for a little bit of spring football. We got one break to go, one segment to go. It's a Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electric. Boudreaux's Electric. Neil and Melissa, 40 years running the business over at Boudreaux's Electric. Their son Jeremy has taken over some of the operational help over there. Look, protect yourself from power outages. It's that simple. Whether you're a business owner that can't have the power going down in your commercial property or a homeowner that just wants that power up and running, Boudreaux's Electric can get you that Generac generator. They'll have it installed professionally by a full-time Boudreaux's Electric employee who's going to come over, use the highest quality in copper, highest quality in tubing and piping, and they're going to do most of that installation underground. Take pride in what your house looks like. You don't want a big honking generator that looks ridiculous with a bunch of tubes and copper everywhere. You want it professionally installed so that it's aesthetically pleasing and gives you the peace of mind of protecting yourself from the power outage. Whether you're riding out a storm, whether you're evacuating, you're coming back from a storm where the power may be out, you don't want to come back to a 95-degree house with a bunch of smelly things in the fridge that have spoiled. No. Boudreaux's Electric can help you out with that. They've got their location down there in the 985. They got their location over in Gonzales. Give them a call. Check them out online. That's my friends over at Boudreaux's Electric.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
It was a humid day. Barefoot children play. Looking for that summer shade. Time to slip away. Some kind of hold on me, like cypress stumps, your roots are planted deep inside of me.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985.
On Fridays, OTB, LSU, Texas, in Houston, we break it all down. Plus, the latest from the NFL Combine, who blew the scouts away? Could Jaden Daniels really be the number 1 overall pick? Off the bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
We are coming down the home stretch for the inaugural season of the Baton Rouge Zydeco, now through March 31st, when the 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge team is out at Rouse's on Florida or Burbank. Stop by and spin for your chance to win tickets to see the Zydeco. For more information and to purchase single-game tickets, visit brprohockey.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Shout out to the folks over at Rouse's. Awesome shopping experience inside the store. I love going in there clean. They got a great selection. It's great. I'm going to be in there tomorrow. However, if you don't have time to do your shopping in the store, download the Rouse's app. You can do all your shopping at the tip of your fingers. Personal shopper will go in there, round up all your stuff, set that pickup time. They will walk it right out to you curbside as long as you spend $35. You don't spend an extra cent on the pickup. So Rouse's always a great option. We're getting close to the weekend for all your weekend needs, watch parties, birthday parties, or just dinner. Rouse's always help you out there, and they bring you our Thursday shows. All right, Beck, take it or leave it.
All right, first one here. The Philadelphia Phillies are scrapping Dollar Dog Night this season after multiple instances of fans last year throwing the hot dogs on the field and across sections in a food fight-esque scenario. You aren't surprised by this. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it. I'll take it. People never really cease to amaze me. And not that I have not been young and dumb. I have been young and dumb. I think probably the worst offense of mine in terms of being a fan was probably in Oxford for the Terrence Tolliver clock run-out game, and some kid talked trash to me. He was probably like 9, and I think I yelled at him and told him to have fun at the Liberty Bowl or something. Not a proud moment. I was like 20. That's not what you're looking for. But I'm enough to admit it. It's been 14 years since that.
That's pretty tame, though, honestly.
Well, but I mean, you got like the Texas game, and we're throwing bottles at other players.
Yeah.
We're chucking hot dogs. Like, look, I've been young and dumb, but like, why? Why are you doing that? Just eat the hot dog. It's fine. Just grab a beer. I'm amazed at the amount of people that get in fist fights at games. That seems like really avoidable. Maybe just enjoy the game and not get in a fist fight. I realize that throwing a hot dog is probably a little tamer than getting in a melee up there. But I just when they egg it on intentionally, like the Waste Management Phoenix Open, where they're telling everyone to get blindly drunk and yell all the time. I get when it gets a little bit over the rails, but just on a general principle, like Dollar Dog Night, that's supposed to be a really good thing. Just eat the hot dog and don't throw it at people. Seems doable.
Just on a side note, when I was living in Houston, I went to an Astros game on Dollar Dog Night.
Yeah.
And housed a 6-pack. It was not the most enjoyable experience.
No.
But I was asked by my friends to do it, so I had to.
You had to, clearly. I tried in that same vein. I tried to eat 5 Baconators when I was in college one time. There's a thing that's on the internet now, the 999 challenge.
Yeah.
9 hot dogs, 9 beers in 9 innings. I feel like I could do that.
Oh, you could do that. 9 innings is easy.
Yeah, I feel like I could do it.
Yeah.
I don't want to, but I feel like I could.
You could. All right, moving on here. Daryl Mitchell will be LSU basketball's next member of the SEC Legends Club in the class of 2024. Mitchell hit the biggest shot in school history. Take it or leave it.
I will leave that. Ricky Blanton's shot that sent LSU eventually to the Final Four, bigger. But Daryl Mitchell's bucket against Texas A&M in the second round was massive, and it led to the Final Four run where they ultimately beat Duke and beat Texas and got to the Final Four. They don't get there if Daryl Mitchell doesn't pull up from the right wing and bury that 3 late against Texas A&M. AC Law, I believe, in Texas A&M on that team. He was awesome. He was the only guy on that team that could shoot it all. Tasman shot a little bit from 3. Garrett Temple couldn't shoot it all at that point in his career. And Glenn made a couple of big shots, but he was mainly a post guy, and certainly Tyrus wasn't going out there shooting. He was like the only real guard out there. You had Garrett Temple playing defense. It was Tasman, Glenn, and you had Tyrus.
Don't forget about Ben Vooge.
You had Ben Vooge coming off the bench. Darnell Lazar off the bench there. Magnum Roll off the bench on that team as well. Fun team. My senior year in high school, I remember I was sitting in my dad's office watching Daryl Mitchell drain that shot, and I went nuts when he hit it. Awesome player, LSU legend for sure, and so I'm glad that he's being honored at the SEC tournament.
All right, last one here. After just recently confirming that the college football playoff would move to 12 teams this season, Heather Dinich of ESPN is now reporting that a 14-team playoff could come as early as 2026. There will be 20 teams in the playoff by 2030. Take it or leave it.
I'll leave that. I don't think they'll go to 20. I'm going to reserve my full thoughts on the 14-team playoff for tomorrow's show. Had enough today that I didn't feel like we needed to hit it very hard. T-Bob and Jake talked about it this morning, and they kind of echo where I am. There's a certain point where we're doing things that I think are counterproductive. I do not think at all that going from 4 to 12 is counterproductive. I think some of the stipulations in this 14-team playoff with the amount of automatic bids is counterproductive. You're now going to annually permit teams that I believe have no business being in the playoff. I think you can do it correctly with 12 teams. And if you look at this past year with Missouri and Ole Miss and like Penn State, like some of those teams I think merit consideration. you start to bump a couple of teams down into the Big 12 with Cincinnati and TCU, I think we may have lost the plot. So I'll talk about that a little bit more tomorrow. I'm sure Matt will have his thoughts on it coming up today on AFR. That'll do it for our show today on this Thursday, presented by Rouse's. Luke Johnson in the first hour. If you want to catch that, you can catch it on YouTube. Not Luke on Saints. That won't get you anywhere. Hunt on Saints is where you can find our interview with Luke Johnson. Dan Orlovsky and Dominic Foxworth talking about LSU quarterbacks in the NFL. That was in hour number 1. My thoughts on LSU and Rice last night from Houston in hour number 1 as well. Chris Blair, the voice of the Tigers, talking some hoops with us, and JD Picell with his interview with Brian Kelly was with us at 2:30. You can catch all that on demand, 1045ESPN.com's on-demand tab, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, wherever you find your sound or your video on YouTube, you can find us. Hope everybody has a wonderful Thursday evening. That's about to drive you home from 3 to 6 on After Further View. We're back tomorrow for Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
There's never been a better time to catch a John Deere deal from the crew of Sunshine. Ask us about our low monthly payment options on our tractor packages and let the good times roll. With equipment strong enough to power one of the world's largest celebrations, we've got your needs covered too. Learn more about what it means to be powered by Sunshine at sunequip.com. Some restrictions apply. See dealer for details. Offer ends April 30th, 2024.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs, even in the case of an after-hours emergency.